evening. I'd like to call the October 21st Town Board meeting to order. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone please remain standing. I'd like to hold a moment of silence for two people. One is the longtime late mayor of the village of Woodridge, Joan Collins. And the other one was our recent Key to the Town awardee. It was Louise Stratton Claremont. We awarded her the Key to the Town for having just turned 100 years old, and unfortunately, she just recently passed away. Thank you. Kristen, come here. All right. I don't have a supervisor's report tonight. Do we have any technical issues?
Cameras just shut off. Okay, no, we're good.
Good. All right. Do we have any correspondence tonight?
Well, we do. So the first letter is for written from Chief Pizbacy about Detective John Chevalier, Detective Kyle Terrain. This letter is to inform you for your outstanding 25, the above officers spearheaded one of the biggest gun busts in the history of Sullivan County. What started off as a stolen property complaint turned into the seizure of a cache of weapons and ammunition. While detectives were investigating the stolen property complaint, they uncovered evidence obtained from social media posts that indicated the suspect, a convicted felon, may have been in possession of illegal firearms. The Sullivan County District Attorney's Office was contacted and a search warrant was applied for. After the warrant was signed by a Supreme Court justice, it was executed in the Village of Liberty with the assistance of the Village of Liberty Police. These were 6 illegal and unlawfully possessed semi-automatic handguns, 3 illegal and unlawfully possessed assault weapons, 7 unlawfully possessed rifles, 1 unlawfully possessed pump-action shotgun, over 15 illegal possessed high-capacity magazines, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, tactical equipment, included load-bearing vests and ballistic helmets, and multiple components of firearms. Arrested were Darren McCosco and Kimberly Moran, both of Liberty. They were both charged with criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree for unlawful possession for 5 or more firearms, 3 counts of criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree for possession of a loaded firearm, and 3 counts of criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree, all felonies, and were both sent to Sullivan County Jail. It is because of your dedication to the residents of not only the town of Fallsburg, but the entire community safe. These guns were taken off the streets. Our entire community is safer because of your actions with this case. Our agency will continue to investigate and arrest people who feel they can violate the citizens or any other surrounding community. You are commended for the outstanding job you perform and read before the town board. Thank you for the dedication to the police department, community, and that's Chief Pizbacy. The second one is for Sergeant Philip Brooks, Officer Colin Garfalo, Officer Anthony Ramirez Marin, Sergeant Christopher Casero, Detective John Chevalier, Detective Kyle Gerain, and Detective Stephen Vogler. Here is to inform you our outstanding display of service to your community. On Sunday, August 10, 2025, Sergeant Brooks, Officer and Officer Ramirez Marin answered a harrowing 911 call at the Fallsburg Mobile for a subject wielding a machine gun who was yelling racially motivated tirades towards Jewish residents of the town of Fallsburg. Upon was narrowly missing pedestrians who were walking a vehicle after passing multiple vehicles in a no passing zone. Officers made a split-second decision to overtake the suspect's vehicle as he began to drive into oncoming traffic to prevent anything further from happening. The suspect's vehicle made contact with Fallsburg patrol vehicle and became disabled in a ditch on Anawan Road in the town. Without further incident, detectives from the New York State Police, Sullivan County Sheriff's Department, and the Monticello Police Department substance and unlawfully fleeing an officer, all misdemeanors. He is currently being held in the Sullivan County Jail without bail. I am 100% confident that because of your heroic actions, something bigger was prevented. Our agency will continue to invest is for the highway department, I believe. It's attention to Michael Ben Simone, Town Supervisor, Hysana and Airport Road in Town of Fallsburg roadside work. Dear Supervisor Ben Simone, I want to take a moment to acknowledge recent work performed near my residence located at 419 Airport Road in the Town of Fallsburg. To see one of the town highway department laborers, Jason Newell, the other morning while departing for work. Jason was working on clearing the roadside of vegetation. I thanked him for performing this important maintenance on our town road. The work performed was done meticulously, safely, and timely. It's not the first time I have met professional and thoughtful in his representation of the town highway department. Additionally, Anthony Dworetsky and his secretary Julia Caruso, who are always very responsive to any inquiries or requests placed to the department. The town is lucky to have such a hardworking and dedicated employees. In the action by the town, it is evident you and Anthony recognize the importance of keeping vegetation clear from our roadside edges. Some residents may not recognize it being important, but it is for the following reasons. A, traffic safety improves visibility, reduces wildlife vehicle crashes, provides a safe recovery zone to the disabled vehicles, prevents fires, and enhances winter driving safety. B, infrastructure protection, improves drainage and prevents frost heaving, prevents structural damage, and protects guardrails and signage. C, environmental management, invasive species control, and erosion control. Not only are the towns safer, they are aesthetically pleasing to travel, being neat and free of vegetation and debris, thereby creating and having a town environment that is pleasurable for residents and visitors to travel. Again, thanking the town for taking such action and recognizing their employees for great work. This is signed by Arthur J. Hussey. I guess I have one more for the police department. Dear Chief Pavesi, never mind. I don't have to read that. No. Okay, never mind. That is it.
Okay, I'd like to have a round of applause to our dedicated public servants. Okay. So now I'd like public comments. I just want to remind everyone that we're limited to 3 minutes per person. It's not a question and answer, so if you have any questions, ask your questions, we'll write them down. If it has to do with anything on the agenda, when I get to that item, I will try to answer those questions. If it has something to do with something that's not on the agenda, a general question, see your information with back to you with any answers. So do we have anyone signed up to?
We'll start with James Agari.
The Supervisory Board was recently told that the town of Fallsburg has something called an executive committee. Do we have such a thing?
Good committee.
So anyway, if we don't have an executive committee, then what I was told is obviously false, and I'll just sit down.
I have a question. I know that this is a discussion item, and therefore, I assume you're not gonna make any big decisions on it. It's a discussion item, but I just want to remind that even though Luxor Junior did get some approvals for some sewer extensions, that was in 2023 before all the present developments have occurred, and we already do have the strain on the water in Lac Sheldrake in general also. And so I just am wanting to remind us that I would really like that to be reviewed again in a more updated context of Lac Sheldrake now. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Anybody else?
Do we have anybody online that would like to speak tonight? I don't know, do you have a report?
He didn't give you one, but we're gonna continue doing good things in the town of Fallsburg.
Thank you.
You really do.
Yeah,
Our department is superb.
no, we just keep on trying to improve everything and do what we have to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Highway.
Hello, quick update, what's happening in the highway department recently. We've been ditching and replacing pipes. We did all the pipes on Manga for next year. Hopefully looking to pave that road next year, but did the pipe work. Over at the Mountaindale Sewer Plant, we put some topsoil down. We have to produce more topsoil, project moving forward. That's a DEC thing over there. We've had the Village of Liberty here to help us clean out some catch basins and pipes over on Laurel Avenue with their backhaul, which much thanks to them. We've repaired a couple catch basins on Astor. We fixed the lighting on a for us. We were busy paving, so I just want to say thank you. The wire's been replaced, the lights work now. We've been out cutting, chipping brush. Did some drainage on Crum Road for ice conditions that has been happening the last few years. Hopefully we'll fix that now. We paved the Neversink access road down here for the water and sewer pump stations. Down here below the sewer plant, the road was in terrible, terrible shape. Rob was having a hard time plowing, so he should be good there now. We're doing patchwork for the, until the plant's closed now, and right around Thanksgiving they'll close. This year we, between contract paving and our in-house work, we paved a total of 33 roads covering 12.067 miles. These roads weren't just paved, they were ditched, pipes that had to be replaced, trees cut, trimmed, patched. The guys really worked hard this year. It was great to see. For comparison, last year we paved 10.02 miles of road, which we all chip sealed this year. So, we've done a lot of work. The guys are working hard. It's great. Completed the paving for the pickleball courts and the Morningside combined pickleball basketball court in Mountaindale. And we're just getting the trucks now ready for the winter season. They all been serviced. Now we just have to look at the sanders and get the plows and wings on, and let's hope for an easy winter. And that's basically what's been going on in the highway.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, last up, DPW Ken Ellsworth, is Ken with us?
Yep, Ken, can you unmute?
Good evening, everyone. We'll start with the sewer department. We're in the process of redoing the New Hope pump station, which is on Zimmerman Road. We need an electrical upgrade and larger pumps to handle the additional flow that's coming to that station. They're servicing generators, which is changing oil and filters. We have that every year that we take care of those in case of a power outage or our pump stations. We've rebuilt 4 pump stations this year and doing basic maintenance and getting ready for the winter. On the water side, there's been a lot of closing camps, getting meters, turning off the water. Several repairs have been completed. Whipple Road Bridge is now completed with a water line crossing, so that's done. We had well number 3, the shaft broke, and that was under warranty, so that's now been fixed and back online. And then they're also getting ready for some stuff on the winter season and getting some projects ready to go out to bid on the water side. There was, if the board wants to discuss it now, there was a meter upgrade that we're doing. I don't know if that's in the agenda now or you want to wait.
No, it was part of your update, I think.
Okay, all right. So the meters that we currently have for the water system are no longer being supported by Badger. So we have to buy new meters. They're new Badger meters that they're connected to a cellular network. It's not much of an option for us to do this, otherwise we'll be back to manual reading, and then if something happens to the meter, they're just not being supported any longer. So the benefits to the new meters is the readings go directly to a dashboard that can be set up on a cell phone or to a computer at multiple locations. The meters are updated. They do their own updates 4 times a day. So the meter readings are every 4 times. You get all brand new readings and you can keep track of it much better. Improved accuracy. You can set up alerts for leaks, which I think is going to be beneficial. And then for the customers, they can set up their own account and review their own meters on their cell phones. So they can judge from remote locations how much water they're using, if they have a problem, and they'll be able to notify the town if there's a problem. The cost, I believe, is in your packet. I can go over that now if you want. It includes training, some one-time fees, a subscription.
We don't have anything.
We don't have
That's in our
that, we don't have
packets.
that in the packet, Ken.
Okay, do you want me to go over that?
Rob didn't give it to me.
have. Not if it's not in the packet.
I mean, you can mention it now, but we're gonna have to
Yeah.
review it again once we get the packets.
Okay, let's wait then. So it's, because I think if you had it in front of you, you'd be able to see the different components. It'll mean more to you than just me rattling off some numbers today.
So, but essentially you're saying that the current meters that we have are not gonna be supported by the vendor, and therefore we're gonna be required to get new meters, since they won't be serviced anymore. Is that correct?
Correct, yep. Yeah, they'll become obsolete eventually. They're remote reads now, but if something ever happens to the remote read, Badger is not servicing for those meters. They've aged out. Are fairly old.
That was my question, how long have we had these meters?
Some of them are 15, 20 years old.
So the oldest are around 15, 20 years old, but as new construction happens, we're still installing them into new properties, correct?
Yes, unfortunately, that's the only supply that we have. So we're putting them in, and they're new going in, so they're not used. So hopefully they'll hold up and not break down before we're able to get the new meters in.
Is your recommendation to start replacing as we go, or, go and replace all of them in one shot? Or
The price quote, which came from Badger, is a one-shot deal. But there are, if the town wants to consider those options, we can do that, and replace as you go. But I think the training, the recurring fields, communication devices, and some of the one-time fees, they'll be upfront costs regardless of how many meters you start with. Because it's a whole system.
Are we looking to stay with Badger? Is that the quote?
Yes, that's what Rob would like to do. There are other meters out there. Badger is one of the more popular meters, and we've had knowledge to work with them and to read them. And they've been very helpful working with us in the past.
what is the,
So Rob would like to stay with Badger, yes.
what's the number to do the whole deal?
The meters themselves are $1,478,687.45. So it's not a small project.
It almost seems like it's self-created because we're using this company and the company's telling us we're not providing support to this product. However, we have this new product that we'd like you to buy, and you don't really have a choice. You're gonna have to buy it, otherwise you'll be stuck with the old product.
But what he's saying is put in the meters that we have now, and then when the new ones come out, change them out again. That's double the work and double the money, isn't it?
No, that's not what he's
No.
saying, to change everything in one shot.
Yeah, but in the meantime, why don't you change them right up front? The new homes going in, change the meters right now.
You don't have the
Do you,
program for them.
okay.
We have to acquire the system and then, yeah,
I mean,
so,
that's why I asked how long we've had them, because if it was a 4 or 5 year old meter, then I think it's like a self-created thing, but if their technology's 20 years old, you can't fault them for abandoning it and coming up with it,
right.
I mean, we see this a lot in the software industry, right? So I mean, you have a program that's no longer supported, so you have to buy the new version.
Companies, it's like a planned obsolescence that, they want you to get the newest and better. And the truth is, there are a lot of great features here that, you know, are customer friendly, like being able to use an app to see your usage. You know, to be honest, that interests me. I would like to utilize that. But at $1.4 million, you know, I'd like to learn more about what that's gonna, how that's gonna help.
Is the 1.4 all-inclusive where it's the training, the meters, the whole deal, or is that just the hardware?
That's the hardware themselves. There's a training that's $1,950. There's fees associated with it of $12,100, and then communication devices, $314.45. There is a subscription, which is a yearly cost of $47,757.60.
Okay, it's definitely worth its further discussion once we get the packets and we do a little bit of research. It may be that we have no choice and we have to go this route, but we definitely should do our due diligence to ensure that we've exhausted all other possibilities first.
Ken, in your experience, is there another manufacturer you should consider looking at?
It's a fair question, and I guess I would want to look into that a little bit more. We had another meter company that we were working with probably 20 years ago, and we started switching to Badger because of difficulties with service and accuracy. But if you want that, if we want to do that comparison, I think it'll take a little bit of research to do that. Not a bad idea though.
Yeah, while we still have support, might as well do that work now. Any questions?
So, yeah, the only other thing that I think was on my agenda was rates. And Jen, did you pass out?
Yes, I did, they have it.
The sheet?
Yep.
All right, so working with Rob, I just put together a simple sheet that indicated the municipality and what their water use rates were, and in comparison to ours. I was obviously the second one on the list, and it just gives you a simple first glance look to see what every other municipality is doing when it comes to water rates and the gallonage used. My only comment is I went and looked on our last local law where we're raising the rates up 2% per year, and it's going to take us 27 years just to get to where the village of Monticello is now at 2% per year. At 10% per year, you'll be there in 7 years. So we do charge much less than most of the neighboring communities, which makes it also hard to do upgrades and generate funds. But I know it's a difficult decision, but I just want to make sure everyone was aware of the rates that are around us.
I'm just gonna pass that out.
I think it's worth having a discussion. So basically, the municipalities that you gave us in comparison, we are cheaper than the village of Würzburg, the village of Liberty, the village of Monticello, and the town of Tustin. I don't know why we're comparing ourselves to Tustin, since we don't have that size, but you know what, Thompson is doing, what, Mankato is doing, what, another piece of that, really the comparison is that they charge a lot more than we do, so we should be charging more. But it's my understanding that the usage fees are designed to cover your operating expenses, and the property taxes are designed for capital upgrades. So if we feel that we are not covering our operating expenses with our usage rates, then obviously we have to increase those rates. If we're just looking to raise the rates so we have extra cushion to go into capital expenditures, then it's not really operations and maintenance, it's more capital, in which case we may want to shift those costs into our capital side. But I see your approach and I think it's worth a discussion, a further discussion.
If there's other towns that you want to look at, just give the list to Jen, and we'll pull that information and add it to the list.
All right,
I can
and,
give you the town of Thompson if you want.
right, and then the other piece, at least according to our budget, is that, you know, usage rates are covering operations and maintenance, and then the excess is going into our fund balance. You know, is that the model that we wanna continue with, where, you know, we're using, you know, we're basically charging more than we need to charge, so, just so we can create that fund balance, that surplus, or do we wanna build it into, property taxes, or both? It seems like we're doing both at this point. Okay, any other questions from the board?
I was just curious, do you have it up in front of what?
Yes. Effective January 1, 2023, town of Thompson, 0 to 4,000 is $38. The next 5,000, $41, and then every 1,000 thereafter is $6.
Is that built into their property taxes?
That's the usage rate.
That's the use, it's the rates that would be billed for gallons, and I'm sure there's on the other side a capital line as well.
Well, that's pretty comparable. I guess we'd have to look at their finances to see if that's the right size for them. You know, they probably have a larger user base. There's some variables here that, you know, we can't do an apples to apples comparison with every jurisdiction because, you know, they're set up very, very different. Any questions from the board?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ken. All right, that's it for department head updates. We can go ahead and move on to our agenda items for tonight. And then eventually our discussion items. So first up, motion to approve town board minutes dated 9/30/2025.
Motion.
I have a
Second.
motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number two, motion to approve payroll warrants dated 9/10/25 in the amount of $396,903.25.
Motion.
I have a motion,
Second.
I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number three, motion to approve payroll warrants dated 9/24/25 in the amount of $365,091.41.
Motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number four, motion to approve payroll warrants dated 10/8/25 in the amount of $396,225.07.
Motion.
I have a
Second.
motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number five, motion to approve warrant number 10/25 dated 10/6/25 in the amount of $618,760.89.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Number six, motion to approve warrant number 10/8/25 dated 9/10/9/25 in the amount of $272,107.75.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Number seven, motion to approve employment transfer of Austin Lewis from the Parks Department to the Water Department as a plant attendant effective 10/20/25. This is a lateral transfer with equal pay.
Motion.
I
Second.
have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Number eight, so this is to adopt a, standard application for any, company that's looking to get on our tow list. I just wanna make a suggestion for a, correction. So at the end of the application, it says, upon review by the Town of Fallsburg Board of Trustees at a meeting held on such and such date. If possible, since we don't have a Board of Trustees, I'd like to change it to upon review by the town board at a meeting held on such and such. Is everyone in favor of that correction? All right, so do I have a motion with the stated corrections? I have a motion on, do I have a second?
Second.
You are adopting,
Yes, adopting with the
Okay.
corrections.
so
You're just gonna delete, you're just gonna delete
The
this.
word trustee.
The word of trustees.
Of Fallsburg and of trustees, so that it reads by the town board.
Who's the second?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. All right, number 9. So this one is to correct local numbers, local law numbers, essentially when we submit it to the state. They'd like us to do it in order, and we're just looking to just change up, local law from this number to the next number. I'll read it, I'll read through it if anyone has any questions. Motion to correct local law numbers for submission to New York State for filing, Resolution 83 of 2025, resolution of the town board of the town of Fallsburg authorizing adoption by the town board of the town of Fallsburg adopted September 30th, 2025 as local law number 5 of 2025. A local law to amend the town of Fallsburg zoning code shall be submitted to the New York State Department of State and known as local law number 4 of 2025 and resolution 86 of 2025. Adopting local law 4 of 2025 to override New York State tax cap limits scheduled for consideration on October 28th, 2025 shall be known as local law number 5. The submission of local law number 4 of 2025 prior to this motion be and hereby is in all respects approved, ratified, and affirmed effective nunc pro tunc September 30th, 2025. Essentially that we're going back to make a correction to that local law, just to swap the numbers from 4 to 5. And that's the only change that's being made. Is there anything else that?
Yeah, it's just essentially, the reason this occurred was the board did not vote on the tax cap that night, so we ended up passing them out of order. So you can't submit them out of order, you have to submit them in order, so it's just to clean that up. We're trying to create procedures to avoid that happening.
Thank you.
So it's just a matter of numbering, but it's really not. It's not a substantive change, and non pro tunc is Latin, it means now for them.
From back then. So do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Alright, motion passes. So the next up, we have an application from the Rock Hill Service Center to essentially get on our rotating tow list. The board has received the application, we have reviewed it, and essentially there's a motion here to approve.
Which I would recommend, just as a procedural, make it motion to amend the agenda to make it a motion to consider. Rather than,
And then discussion.
and then you discuss it, yes.
Alright, so do I have a motion to amend the agenda to change it to consider approving Rock Hill?
No, just take the word approve out. and
Just
put
to consider their
Rock
application.
Hill application, yes.
To consider the Rock Hill application. Do I have a motion to change the wording, and then after that, we can
Yes.
go in and have a
Motion to
discussion?
change the word. Second.
I have a second, all in favor? Aye, okay, so we have an application, essentially the toll law was changed to kind of give us ministerial duties, to approve these applications based on the local law that was set. It's my understanding that we changed the law to make it that the business had to be, it used to be the business had to be in the boundaries of the town of Fallsburg, but the law was amended to be, I believe, 1.5 miles from the, is it 2.5 miles? It was a half mile, apologize, half a mile from the town of Fallsburg boundaries. It's my understanding that this applicant is outside of those boundaries, am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so I believe Ken looked into this and verified this as well. Again, if it was just discretion, that's one thing, but, the law is written where we serve ministerially, so we can't just say, well, it's 0.5, they're really 0.6, we should just allow it because, we really don't have that much leeway. And, that's the difficulty here is that they are outside of that boundary. Maybe we could have a bigger discussion as to, whether or not half a mile is the right number, or, again, we're not legislating that right now, we're just here to discuss the application at hand.
Excuse me.
So, I'm sorry, do you have a correction?
That is the law that I sent to the state, though, what we have.
The half mile?
Yeah.
Right.
Correct,
So
yeah.
I'm just saying, for you to say that we're gonna adjust it, then.
No, I did not say that. I apologize if that's the way you took it. I'm saying, we do not.
I'm the one that they're answering to, so.
Correct.
That's
Okay,
cool.
just to reiterate what I was saying, the law is written where we have ministerial duties to approve. It does not state that we have discretion to go outside the law as written.
Okay.
So the point I'm trying to make is that our opinion in this matter really has no bearing. The question is, do they meet the criteria? And based on just the boundary alone, they're outside the half mile boundary. Therefore, in my opinion, they do not meet the criteria. So, I mean, I don't know if anyone else has an opinion on this matter.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's pretty much it. So I guess, I mean, at this point, we don't need a motion to approve or disapprove. We
Well,
can,
you can make a motion to deny.
can we?
Yeah.
Because you have to write that on the application that they.
It has to be reported that you decided at a meeting.
So then,
It also
I'll
gives me
entertain a
more
motion.
solid ground that I can give them the minutes.
whereas the board decided, voted to deny it. All right, so do I have a motion one way or the other?
Motion.
To
Second.
To what?
deny, right?
Yes.
To deny.
Have a motion to deny, have a second. All in favor?
I'm going to
Abstain
abstain, sorry,
or recuse?
Abstain.
abstain.
Alright, so, and I'm a yes, so 3 in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstention. Alright, next up is our 2026 holiday schedule. Nothing changes in the schedule, still the same number of days off, it just gets,
Election day was added for the CSEA contract.
oh, as a new day off.
Mhm.
And Juneteenth and 4th of July is still, you choose one or the other,
Mhm.
correct?
And
Alright,
Yom Kippur and Good Friday. Choose one or the other.
one or the other, which is existing from last year.
Yeah, everything's existing except for the election.
Okay, so 2026, motion to approve 2026 employee holiday schedule.
Motion.
Second,
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
aye.
Aye, motion passes.
I'm doing meeting, Miranda.
Number 12, we have an application for live entertainment for the Hurleyville Fire Department Annual Halloween Parade on Halloween. Everyone received this application, does anyone have any questions?
No, I do have something to say though. Hurleyville has been having this parade for over 50 years. I've lived in the town of, the hamlet of Hurleyville for 50 years. And those kids wait for this parade every year. And the fire department is superb in what they do for our community and our kids. So
I make a motion.
that's all I had to say.
I have a motion to
Second,
approve,
yes,
Yes.
approved.
and have a second, all in favor?
Yes. Aye.
Motion passes. All right, number 13. So in our last meeting, we had approved we had passed a resolution that created an insurance buyout for management, confidential employees, the elected officials, and department heads. And, you know, essentially those that are not covered by collective bargaining agreements and certain other positions that, you know, that would be eligible. The one piece we did not include into that legislation was, it was focused on family health insurance, and there was a buyout for those who did not take the town insurance for family, but for those individuals that have single coverage, you know, there is a large cost associated with that to the town as well. I think it's like 19,000, something like that. So we are looking to include a buyout amount of $7,500 for those that are single and elect not to take the coverage from the town.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a
Yeah.
second, all in favor?
I'm going to abstain.
I I'm voting yes, and I have one abstention, so 3-0-1. Okay, so next up is basically an amendment to the professional services agreement that we have with Delaware Engineering. This is amendment number 3 to that agreement. Essentially, we're starting a standalone electric service upgrade. You know, the wastewater treatment plant in South Fallsburg requires a tremendous amount of more power, which requires to upgrade the entire power system there. We've already put it out to bid, and and it looks like the company West Fair Electrical Contractors won that bid. So essentially what we're looking to do is do an amendment number 3 to the contract to include construction inspection for the standalone electrical service project that Delaware Engineering had designed themselves and was bidded out and awarded to West Fair Electrical Contractors Incorporated. Estimated cost is about $432,000 for the on-site inspection of the work and the administration. So essentially, it's an amendment to Delaware Engineering's current contract to be able to provide on-site inspection to ensure that this company that we've contracted with, essentially does the work according to the specifications that Delaware Engineering designed. So, number 14, Resolution 88 of 2025 authorizing amendment number 3 to professional services agreement with Delaware Engineering DPC regarding construction phase services for standalone electric service project / expansion of the South Fallsburg wastewater treatment plant.
Motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. So number 15. So essentially what happened with this one is back in 2020, the town board back then voted to annex 2 properties, roughly 6 or 7 acres worth of land, into the village of Woodridge. The village of Woodridge, voted to authorize it as well. It seemed that everything was fine, except we cannot find original signatures back then, or that anything was, essentially, the change never happened because we never had the original signatures to provide to the county to work on that change. Didn't change the taxing structure or anything of that sort. So essentially, what we're looking to do here, or at least what's being proposed, is to reauthorize the annexation, right? And not only does it does 2 things. One is it stands to recognize that annexation, and then I guess just in case, it also authorizes and adopts a new order of annexation, annexing the above referenced parcels into the village. So it does 2 things. One is to acknowledge the past annexation, and then in case that's not good enough, we're looking to, I guess, as a brand new application, we're looking to authorize an annexation. So, I do want to, point out that, in the resolution it does state that this is, good for the town, that it serves the good of the town. Everyone can vote the way they want to vote. And I understand that this has already been in place for 5 years. The parcels, if you look at them on paper, they're surrounded by the village at this point. So they're like islands in the village. That said, the part of the resolution that states that it's in the interest of the town, I'm having difficulty with, because it essentially takes $146,000 in assessed value off the tax rolls for the B fund, which is our, law enforcement and building department fund, and doesn't close that gap other than to, raise it on everyone else. That's the main piece of it for me. That said, it is procedurally and in reality it doesn't really have much of an effect. Essentially, it's been operating as if it's been part of the village for over 5 years now.
And this did come up, as I understand it, while they were looking for their municipal approvals to do whatever their projects are. The town had a copy, electronic and paper copy, of a fully signed set of papers. They're both in a file and they're in the assessor's computer. The Village of Woodridge papers are in their file, originals. And part of this also is because the county clerk didn't want a certification of a copy, which of course now is rather routine. There are many things where the original is whatever's generated by a computer. So this is to clean all of that up, and although going forward, you're not gonna have the benefit of it, you had 5 more years of benefit. You had 5 more years of benefit that really was not intended. So it's a ratification and a reauthorization, and part of the reauthorization is because it would cause chaos if we tried to do it effective the date that it was actually done, because there's been 5 tax rolls since then. So it cleans it all up, it puts it in a form where there's an original order that will be acceptable to the clerk. It also cleans up the town records to show what was done. The village will be able to file those papers. You should be routinely, but again, this is to clean up really what was something that should have been done in 2020, but I can only assume since the World Cup ended in March, and people couldn't meet, and people couldn't move documents around, and at that time, if I recall correctly, you dumped things to record in a box outside the county office building, so who knows what went on at that time when these papers were recorded, and certainly it's not particularly fair to the owner because they had a clean annexation.
Right, it seemed like because in the original order, the intention was to take like 6 parcels that were joining and then combine them into one parcel for one large project. And it looks like they're looking to do that now, and I guess the county is realizing that there's 2 parcels that still belong to the town, and, officially. And then to your point, yes, the last 5 years, we've been collecting the tax, our police department has been getting the piece of the taxes that, that affects them, and going forward, they're not gonna have that revenue anymore. Not that it was incredibly substantial, but, it's.
My next question was, is $140,000 an assessment?
In a sense, right, so it's like $3,000 maybe,
In total tax?
in total taxes, yeah.
Right.
Over 5 years, like $15,000 that the town got that they wouldn't have gotten.
Would that be B fund only? Because there's other things that
Yeah, they're still
play
paying
out
town
roles.
taxes.
Right, it's only for the B fund, right. The general fund they're still paying into, that doesn't change. So that's pretty much where it stands, so I'll read it off.
Second.
Resolution 89 of 2025, reauthorizing annexation, issuing order of annexation for SPL number 41.1.1-6 and 41.1-7 to the Village of Woodridge. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I have an aye, and I am going to abstain, so 3-0-1. Okay, so that's it for agenda items, and we can now move on to one of 3 discussion items that we have tonight. Discussion item number 1, rezoning of SBL number 32A-1-20 on Kyle Farm Road, subdivision Hurleyville, from agriculture to Hamlet Residential, presented by Adam Gould.
How you guys doing? Thank you for having us today. We came in front of the board probably back in March or April of last year, or this year. We got a little farther along with kind of our plans for what we would like to do here. But the first step would be to get the zoning rezoned to Hamlet Residential. I don't know if you want to go through like project narrative again before.
Yeah, it'll help from the plan.
So it's a 13.8 acre parcel. We'd like to do 4 8-unit buildings of workforce housing. We currently manage about 30 units locally, some we own, some we manage for other people. About 16 of them are in Hurleyville right now. There's a huge demand, I don't think it's any secret that we need workforce housing in the county and in the town. The property also abuts a bunch of properties that are in the HR zone, and it also even extends to Main Street. At one point, it was zoned Hamlet Residential. I don't know why it was changed, but it was changed at some point, and we're essentially just looking to get it changed back to the HR zone. I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, that's about it. I mean, we talked to most of the business owners, the larger business owners in Fallsburg. We have all their support. They all expressed the need for workforce housing that's affordable. And that's what we plan on doing.
And I mean, yeah, we've done this before. We have buildings in Bethel, and like I said, we have some in Hurleyville already that we have a wait list that we can't fill.
What's affordable?
The one bedrooms are going for between, $1,100 to $1,150.
And I think we'll kind of poll around also and make sure that we're pricing them correctly. We're not like locked into anything at this point.
Okay.
But, we're gonna do it right. That's our, our commitment.
Yeah, but basing off of the ones, we have in Bethel that are similar to what we're looking to do here, the one bedrooms are in that just around 1,100 range. And the two bedrooms go up to 1,400.
And so how do you, so when your applicants apply for an apartment, do you do a calculation of their salary and?
Well, there's no subsidy here that, it's not affordable housing, it's workforce housing. I mean, I think that's the gap that's getting missed a lot locally, is that the range, the affordable housing that, you can get a subsidy for, those are out there. It's the range a little above that, in this range that I'm talking here, that these people don't qualify for any subsidies, but it's still really hard to find an affordable, nice new unit. I mean,
I think keyword is nice. They're gonna be, nicer than
Is anything included in
affordable
that?
housing.
So they're all electric, so everyone has their own meter, and they really just pay for their electric bill. I mean,
So you don't provide heat?
no.
No.
And I can tell you that the bills right now currently running between 125 to 200 a month in these units for heating them. I
They're
mean,
very energy efficient.
yeah,
Which my house
they're all
is
spray
energy
foam,
efficient.
they're heat pumps, they're quality bills.
Thank you.
Now, so how are you determining the rents that you're gonna be charging if it's not based on the person's?
It's really just market
salary.
rate, I mean, without trying to gouge people, I mean.
But doesn't workforce housing have a definition that it's within like 80% of AMI?
Yes, it does, and those ranges will fall into the local.
But it's not guaranteed, right? So
No.
in 5 years, if that changes, we can't. Would you be open to us putting a mechanism in place that there'd be like fines or, some sort of punishment if it doesn't fall within that thing? Because we're, ultimately, we need affordable housing.
I think we all
need-
know this, right, sure.
So,
I mean, I'd like to see what that looks like, and I know some places do like a percentage of the properties have to stay in that range. I mean, if you guys want to put something together, I'm certainly open to it.
Yeah, 'cause my concern is that, there's always a possibility that it could open up a floodgates of developers coming and saying, we have all this ag districts
Sure.
all throughout the town,
Absolutely.
we need housing,
Sure.
can you just
You want
start?
a little safety mechanism in there.
We want to,
too.
yeah.
Understood.
Because if we're looking to do this, in furtherance of affordable housing,
Sure.
we want to make, we'd like to consider that we'd have mechanisms in place to ensure that 10 years from now, that's still the case, and that doesn't get
Understood.
sold.
That sounds reasonable, and we're always willing to.
Yeah, I'm certainly, like, you guys wanna put something together, and again, we really base these off of that workforce housing definition and range, and that's where the numbers fall for the most part. Another thing also, like, I know going ag to HR is not an easy ask, but where this one is located, it abuts a ton of, I have a map here, I don't know if anybody wants to take a look at it.
I saw the property,
you see it?
yeah.
Okay, I mean, so it literally touches Main Street, I mean.
Well, that's what prevents it from being a spot zoning issue, because it touches.
Correct, it touches the zone, it's not like it's in the middle of all ag around it, there is HR
No,
and
what
R
the
zone
stop
around
of
it.
spot zone is, it has to be in the best interest of the town. Just because it touches doesn't mean, it has to be in the best interest of the town. The project, this board would ultimately have to find that this project is, and the zone change is in the best interest of the town and its constituents, not in the best interest of the developer.
And I can tell you, I mean, we've spoke to, I have a list here, I mean, the Center for Discovery, Fallsburg Lumber, Murray's Chicken, Mountain Candy, Formaggio, and Bethel Woods have all said if they need letters of support written, they'd be happy to do so. They're losing employees because the employees can't find housing.
And I think there's businesses in Hurleyville that could benefit from not only having employees, but the business that it would bring them.
100%. If anybody has any questions, or is there anything else you can?
Does the board, anyone have any questions about this?
Something we need for
So
sure.
well needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the board is inclined to proceed, you need to let me know, and I can make a resolution that would require escrows, because it's a pre-project situation where it has to be evaluated by town professionals.
Yeah, and in our petition here, I mean, we're fully prepared to.
Which they did acknowledge.
Yes.
It's their usual resolution we've been using, where there really is no project per se, where it's a request for a petition to change something, where the cost is borne by the applicant.
And would it bind the town to proceed?
No, all of the resolutions are with full acknowledgement that it's a preliminary evaluation, and that it will be evaluated on its own merits, and that there's no return, whether it's a yes or a no. It's just so that that the review should be revenue neutral to the town.
Yeah, and we had no problem incurring, I mean, those costs are, we have no problem doing that. I mean, that's something the board would be inclined to do, I mean, we have no problem with that at all.
Well, it's gotta go with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no liability on the town to do that, so there's nothing to be lost on that. So I think,
Jen, add it to our list for next.
Yep.
yeah, I think we can, that much we're willing to go forward on. But obviously we're not in a position to say yes, because we wanna see what the
And
project
this is
will
a
look like.
product, understood.
We're prepared to take it step by step.
Yeah, we're just looking at it.
Just to get it started.
Yep, great. So, okay, is there anything, so now on the next meeting, yes, and that resolution will just keep. Okay, perfect. Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Alright, next up, rezoning of SBL 21-1-11 Hasbrook Drive from business to Hamlet Residential, presented by Ivan Coulter.
So, 23 Hasbrook Drive is the road that's opposite the movie theater in Woodburn. My client owns 4.2 acres of land. It's around 650 feet long. It is with frontage along Hasbrook Drive. It's about 250 feet wide. For some reason, this parcel is an anomaly. It's in a business district, while the property directly opposite it is in a HR Hamlet residential district. The property further down Hasbrook Road is also in a Hamlet residential district. The property to its immediate left is in a medium-density residential district. So I have the petitions which I have sent the board. I have extra copies if you need to look at it. And what I have here is an aerial map showing the property in blue, outlined in blue. And this is Route 52. This is Hasbrook Drive. And this property, once again, is in a higher density, and that is the medium-density residential over here to its left, and on the right is the Hamlet residential, and further down Hasbrook Road is Hamlet residential. This, for some reason, which sticks out like a sore thumb, is in a business district. And I've been in Woodburn since 1964, and other than perhaps the bank building on Michigan Road and Route 52, I don't think there's been another commercial structure that has been built in Woodburn. There have been a number of changes where buildings have changed, and some have been changed from a restaurant to some other facility. But in all the years I've been in Woodburn, there's been not one business structure added to the town, or to the hamlet. So as a business district, and this property in the business district is totally worthless. It has no value because nobody's building anything in Woodburn.
It should be a residential zone, the Hamlet residential. The property is level along the road, and as you face the property, it goes steeply uphill. And I would estimate that of the 4.2 acres, only about 2 acres is buildable. In a HR district with sewer and water, and this property has sewer and water, you can build a residence on 12,500 square feet. If we have 2 acres that are usable, you're probably talking about 7 residential units and no more than that. 7 residential units would be 70, 35, roughly, would be about 85,000 square feet, which would be about 2 acres. So this property can be utilized for residential construction, which would be needed in this area of Woodburn. There's been no residential construction for years along this road, other than major developments that I think the town, there's been significant opposition to the town, but this would be a perfect property for 7 standalone residential units, which would add significant assessed value to the town, because it would not be a condo. You'd have full value for 7 homes that are being built. Otherwise, if this property remains business zoned, it has no value to my client. Nobody can, nobody's gonna build a commercial structure on this property. And as you go down Hasbrook Drive, there are 2 residences right in front of this property. One is owned by my client, which is adjacent to this parcel. And so I'm asking the town board to approve the zoning change from business to HR Hamlet residential. It would be in the best interest of the town. And certainly, once again, I know your attorney mentioned that the interest is whether it's in the best interest of the town, but it's also in the best interest of my client, who has no value to this property in a business district. So it's the right thing to do, it's the fair thing to do, and it's in the best interest of the town.
And this is 7, they don't wanna build townhouses or condos, they're gonna build 7 standalone homes.
The plan, they have no plan yet. I basically looked at this property, I looked at the zoning, and it seems to me to be a perfect place for 7 residential units with sewer and water, 12,000 square feet, 12,500 square feet. And once again, you only have about 2 acres of buildable land, and I'm not even sure if you think about the setback requirements and you think about other obstructions that might be on this property, I don't even know if you get 7 units out of it. I think you can build multiple units on this property in an HR district. I have not checked that out. The client right now is unsure about what he wants to do about it. In fact, if you go down Hasbrook Drive, he owns an old building. In fact, I was thinking of having that as my office years ago, and totally rebuilt it, renovated it. It's a beautiful house. And he will not want to do anything that would affect the property that he has significant amounts of money in. So right now, we are asking for this change. In fact, I think I have a better illustration on this application.
Richard, just a quick question first. Can we consider this and put stipulations on it where it would have to be, if we would approve it, certain, we can't, right?
It's either you change it or you don't change it, and it has to be in the best interest. How long has your client owned the property?
Oh,
And how long has it been Hamlet, how long has it been in that particular zone?
I've been in that zone as far as I can remember.
So
Let me take a look.
you still have to overcome the hurdle that this is in the best interest of the town, and it's not because your client's property is worthless.
No, we
It's not
couldn't,
the standard.
but we couldn't say, listen, if we approve this, it has to be single structures, it can't be.
It's whatever the zone is. If you change the zone, you change the zone. The real question is gonna be, is what Mr. Coulter's saying, in the best interest of the town or solely to accommodate the best interests of his client?
Well, let me show you a different perspective. This is the town zoning map.
Yes.
The property is circled, and the yellow is the residential medium density district, and this is the HR district. So you can see how it's sore thumb.
It's not different than.
It's essentially the last property before it goes back to.
It's not necessarily different than the property that's behind the firehouse. I don't know if that's firehouse property or the property across the street from it. If you go to the edge, you're gonna find these situations everywhere.
No, well, this one in particular is interesting because it sticks out, as I indicated earlier, like a sore thumb, and it's surrounded by higher density zones. So in fact, it fits in perfectly. And it would be in the best interest of the town because you do have an opportunity for residential construction and assessed value, and increases in assessed value. So I have no idea why this was designed this way. Quite frankly, if Woodburn was a vibrant community, a high-growth community, I would tell my client to keep it as a business district. Because there are very few business districts left. There is no growth on the main street of Woodburn. You can't go further beyond the bridge because that's owned by the state. So there's no place else to build commercial structures in Woodburn. No place else. And if Woodburn, once again, was a vibrant community, I would tell my client to leave it as a business district. There isn't many other places where you can build commercial structures in Woodburn. But once again, there's nothing being done in Woodburn. Nothing in the last 59 years that I've been here, other than the bank. So I think it is in the best interest of the town to have at least a property where you can put in at least 7 residential units. And whether you can limit it, that's part of a condition, I really don't know.
Okay, any further questions? So it's always tricky in these situations because we have over 10,000 parcels of land in this town. And so each one has an owner, each one has an owner that wants to do something with it. And so we rely on our zoning maps to determine what properties can do what. And that's really decided by the comprehensive planning committee. You know, they look at the entire town and say, okay, we're gonna do ag here, we're gonna do HR there. So I can't really speak to why they decided to take this one parcel in together with others and make this business. But it's tricky because then we end up second guessing them when they finish their whole process, and then we decide to, willy-nilly change all these different properties, based on what we feel is best. I would also suggest that, because you're talking about the steep elevation, that if there's a possible hardship there, maybe it meets a use variance for the ZBA. That aside, like I said, it's always tricky to do these zoning changes for just one parcel, each and every time. However, with regard to like our previous applicant, what piques our interest is the idea that there could be workforce housing, affordable housing, to increase the affordable housing stock in the town. If there's like overwhelming desire to do something like that, then it makes our decision much easier because it's very clear cut that it's in the best interest of the town. Technically, you could say that, raising our assessed value for the town and thereby bringing in more taxable income, could be in the best interest of the town. Others would say that, there's a point of diminishing returns there where you can't just, build out the entire town to be HR just for the sole purpose of increasing our taxable or our receivables. So it's tricky. Like and with Mr. Gold's presentation, there's that idea that we could possibly get affordable housing, workforce housing with maybe some conditions in place to ensure that that's the case. We don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be possibly up to 7 units at market rate. And was it worth doing a zoning change just for that? That's a good question. But this board historically for decades has been approached to do these zoning changes. In many cases it's worthwhile. Some cases it's not. It's always a tricky position to put us into to do these one-offs throughout the town when a comprehensive plan committee, really that's their main purview.
But let me ask you this, let me just reverse it. What harm is it to the town to correct what obviously is an error? And
How is it obvious?
Well, it was. It made no sense for this particular property to be a business district, not when it's surrounded by other areas with greater density. It's got sewer and water, and everything to the left of it, to the right of it, and in front of it is either HR or a medium density district. What harm is there to that? I understand the argument that there are certain properties that are basically intended to be greater, less density, such as an ag district. I can understand that, but here you have something that's clearly unusable as a business zone, and it is usable as an HR zone, and it is surrounded by greater density properties. It makes no sense really to deny this application. I understand where you're coming from. You can second guess the original.
Actually, you can't.
You
can't second guess it. It's presumptively valid. It is presumptively valid that the town board that established this zoning map did it correctly. You can try to overcome the presumption if you say it's an error, and then you don't have to worry about spot zoning. Except you can't do it by just saying it's obvious. You have to demonstrate.
Well, it's obvious by the facts on the ground. It's obvious by the facts on the ground, by the clear evidence of the zoning map, which shows that it's in greater density areas, both left, right, and to the front. That's irrefutable. And it is irrefutable that as a business district, it's worthless. In fact, my client might be entitled to a significant tax reduction, and he hasn't thought about that. But if it's a business district and you can't build on it because nobody's building a wood burn, the property is worthless. As a higher density property, it would be buildable, and it would be important for the town to have additional assessed value. That's what the town really wants. And this is not one of those high density developments. So I don't understand, one objection there would be to denying this application under the circumstances that are unique, truly unique.
Well then, based on what you described, it sounds like you have a perfect case for a variance at the zoning board.
Well,
right, because he's saying it's objective.
Don't send me to the zoning board.
I'm just saying, because
there's all kinds of hurdles that I have to make in that process.
For a use variance, exactly. It's a very high bar, it can't be self-created, you can't do anything else with the property, there's no.
You're sending me to the snake spit, don't.
So then it's easier to come here.
Exactly.
But I would make the case that.
You're done.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions? No. Okay, well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He's still up.
He's still on.
All right, so number 3. Luxor Junior Water and Sewer District Extensions presented by Ivan Coulter.
So this application is subject to 2 signed contracts with the town. The original contract was executed in 2010, and it provided for the construction of 111 units. And the agreement with the town, this contract with the town provided that the town would provide extensions of its sewer and water district to this property. The 2010 contract also provided that there would be road modifications, which my client would pay for, in the amount of $74,000, which we did. We paid that probably within the last 6 months. And accepted that payment pursuant to the 2010 contract. It turns out that with the original 111 unit development, a few of the units were too close to a neighboring property. And the neighboring property objected strenuously to those units being pretty much on the property line. And accordingly, the developer decided to reduce the amount of units and eliminated some of the units next to its neighbor. So in 2013, a new agreement was effectuated with the town, and that new agreement provided that instead of 111 units, there would be 104 units. And the agreement also provided that, that 70 of those, that no more than 70 units could be built during the first 24 months of construction. And after the first 2 years, the developer could then build the additional 34 units. That application was approved by the planning board. The planning board has made a condition that we build no more than 70 units during the first 2 years of construction. The planning board also indicated, as we agreed in the 2 contracts, that we would have no more than 7 bedrooms per unit. I want to point out too, that the total fees to the town, including the remediation of Carmel Jacobs Road, and I don't know if this board is aware that because of all the developments at Carmel Jacobs Road, the planning board is requiring all of the developers to chip in and redo the intersection between Carmel Jacobs Road and Route 52. They're gonna add an additional turn lane, a light, and that's probably gonna run over $1 million. So the cost to my client for the extensions, for park fees, for road remediation will be about $1,200,000. And that's pursuant to contract. Now, Randy Watson is our engineer. He submitted the plans to Ken Ellsworth some time ago. We have not heard any negative comments from Ken. So I assume that the engineering plans, which we are required to do, has been done and they are in proper form. So what I'm asking for is a public hearing, which we are entitled to, based upon 2 contracts that have been signed with the town.
So is my understanding that you're not requesting a water and sewer district extension, you're.
I am, that's exactly what I'm asking
No.
for.
So you're requesting that the town fulfill its obligations to extend the water and sewer district based on an earlier agreement, and that really, it's not necessarily that we have, discretion to approve or deny, it's, we have to do it because we already entered into agreement, and now we're just looking to finalize that agreement. Is that
Exactly.
your position?
Yes, but I think we still have to do a public hearing.
Oh, well, legally,
Well,
yeah.
Absolutely, have to do a public
Yeah.
hearing. There also are outstanding issues which you had indicated, the fees were calculated, you wrote an email to me that the subdivision approval contemplates fees to be paid before subdivision approval, and that you had indicated that you were gonna make a presentation to the board to negotiate not paying the fees at this time. The 74,000 probably was paid, and there was a number, 74,000 in the agreement. 74,000 had to be paid, not because they were required to pay under the agreement, they were required within 3 years to actually do the work. The cap on the work was 74,000. They didn't do any of the work. There was culvert work and other things, and the municipality had to do that work. Correct?
Yeah, that's
It was
why we.
before Anthony,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's why we did, that's why we did.
So, and
And it cost way more than that.
exactly, so, there are some issues with regard to performance on the developer's end of their agreement. They also are not interested, there was a fee generated of, I believe, $895,000 in connection fees, and they've asked not to pay them until they pull building permits. They don't want to pay them as a condition of the planning board approval. The traffic mitigation is in progress, and those agreements, I believe, are being worked on. I don't believe those traffic mitigation agreements have been ultimately approved by the town, which is also a requirement as well.
Yeah, well, let me address first of all the fees. It's my understanding from talking to Randy Watson, and I think he confirmed it with a few others, that the connection fees would be paid once the town approves the extensions. And that's been the standard procedure that this town has followed over the years. Insofar as the road remediation.
So just so I understand, so if the town grants the extensions, there'll be a check for $895,000 odd
Except.
presented to the town.
Except that I've been asked by my client to see if we can negotiate some sort of a reasonable payout, sort of connecting to the building permit applications. I know that we've been negotiating the road remediation fees, and I do have a understanding with Dylan Harris that those fees, when we calculate the correct amount of the fees, will be paid when we apply for building permits. So that's gonna be deferred, that's $255,000, and that's just a rough amount.
There's also a question on that, because of the rolling reason for the traffic, there's a question whether the threshold will be met for the traffic, because it's one development that's not gonna cause the traffic problem, but it's the amalgamation and aggregation of it. But there's a question, what happens if they put in their 250 now, and then when we finally are triggered to build it, their 250 should have been 500? You know, these are the details that have to be worked out with regard to the traffic.
Well, yes, well, the conditional approval that we got from the planning board is that we work out a final arrangement with regard to the remediation of the intersection, and that's a work in progress, because I don't know if you've been participating with negotiations with Dylan Harris, but Jacob Billick and I have had various discussions about a set fee that the developers would pay now. Because the problem is that nobody, you know, this should have been done actually a year and a half ago. The town was supposed to negotiate with DOT to find out exactly what the cost was gonna be. And the problem is that right now, that intersection is not needed. However, it is projected based upon traffic studies by both the town and our expert, and they agree that maybe 6 or 7 years from now, when all these developments are built out, that you definitely will need it. So the concern that the developers have is that we don't want to have an open amount that's owed. We'd rather pay now an estimated amount of what it's gonna cost, because we're afraid of open-ended expense. And we've been negotiating with the town's attorney, Dylan Harris, who's been working on this, about a set payment now based upon what it is projected that this cost is gonna be. And so far,
But we can't get that answer from DOT.
that's the part of the problem, and that's why this has been hanging for probably a year. I know Dylan spent hours trying to put together an agreement, because there are other issues too. What if you have new developments? What if we pay, let's say, $250,000 now, and then a new development comes in 3 years later? Is that new development can also contribute and pay back some of the developers? So there are a lot of issues, and I don't think the town has to worry about that, because it's part of the conditional approval of the planning board that we have to work out an amount to pay for that remediation. So that's separate from the extensions. And I need a public hearing for the extensions, because this development has been in existence for over 20 years. So I have no explanation why. But once we have a public hearing and the town approves the extensions, we then have to go to the DEC, have the DEC look over the plans and approve the plans. That might take months. I've had experience with other developments with the DEC, and then once the DEC approves it, it goes to the Department of Health for their approval. So we're talking about 6 months out, easily. And then we have to deal with Carmel Jacobs Route 52 intersection, as was stated accurately. So that's something that's a work in progress. And right now, the real problem is that nobody can get an answer from DOT. And we're, once again, my client, as well as 10 other developers who are in the same boat, want a fixed amount that they'd rather pay now, rather than worry about what their fees are gonna be 7 years from now.
All right, 2 things. 1, with regard to mitigation, he just agreed with me. 2.
I did, it's true.
The one thing that Mr. Coulter left out that he has agreed to is that there'll be no hookups until there's actually capacity.
Well, there is, well, that's true, but.
Well, because here's what's.
But there is capacity now, Richard. There is capacity now, I know that for sure. There's capacity for 6 or 7 developments, and it's first come, first served. Though the water tank has been built in Sheldrake, that was one of the issues, and there is sewer, and there is water, and it's true, the contracts did not guarantee sewer and water, but there is sewer and water, and you can check that with Ken Ellsworth or whoever else you want to can check that with. This is a race to become approved by 10 different developments, and the 8th or 9th development might have no sewer and no water. Right now, there's sewer and water for this development.
So just to, just want to offer some context, so we have a legal obligation to provide water to everyone that's in the water district, and provide sewer to everyone in the sewer district, whether we have to beg, borrow, steal, upgrade, whatever it costs. We have that obligation pretty much forever, right? So the folks that are, properties are already in our districts, you know, we have an obligation to. But we're not required to extend the district out to new users, you know, and I know that historically, for decades, the town has always extended water sewer districts. Not always, but, you know, that was a very common thing. However, now we're dealing with water and sewer capacity issues. We do have capacity left at the sewer plant, but Ken Ellsworth had mentioned this board previously, you know, for a different applicant, that if all of the properties that are currently in the sewer district in Loch Sheldrick built according to the current zoning that they have, that can build as a matter of right, we do not have enough capacity to handle that. And then water, it goes without saying, you know, is really even worse than that. So, you know, so our experts are essentially saying that it's almost negligent for us to extend the water and sewer district if we can't, you know, reasonably believe that we have the capacity to handle everyone that's currently in the district. Now, in the last year and a half, 2 years, this board has never approved a water sewer district extension, except for the ones that were in contract and that we have a legal obligation to prior to this board. And essentially, it sounds like that's the case that you're making here. You're saying that, you know, that we have a prior agreement and, you know, really the town is needs to fulfill their obligations under that agreement. It's not that we have the discretion to maybe yes, maybe no, depending on what we feel, you know, really according to your argument is that the town is now obligated to fulfill its obligations based on these contracts. And if that's the case.
That's exactly correct. And not only that, in contemplation of the extensions, I have a letter from the town dated November 8, 2024. Excuse me, I had my eyes done, so my distance vision is perfect, but I lost my reading vision. And this was sent, I don't know who sent it, Michael Pinella, I don't know who that is, from Scott Du Bois, and this is a memorandum showing exactly what our fees are gonna be. We've checked that out, and these fees are accurate except for the traffic fund, which is uncertain. And so the town itself, back in November 2024, contemplated that those extensions would take place. And you were
The town
correct.
board or just people working in the town?
People working in the town, from the code enforcement office.
Okay, so so all they're stating is what the potential fees would be, not that they've promised to.
Well, the contract, you're bound by the contracts, you're bound by the 2010 contract.
Okay, so you're.
And you're bound by the 2013 contract.
So go back to the original
No, those are the fees they just wanna pay right now.
All right, so that's.
Hold on a second, Richard.
And that's an aside.
It's my understanding that those fees are not paid before the extension is granted, but afterwards, so don't mistake the.
That's fine, that's
So are
fine.
you withdrawing, so let me
there's
ask
two
you a
pieces
question,
here
there's
that we
two
have to
things here,
consider.
here's a
Go
procedural
ahead.
thing. So does that mean, and I'm not obligating the board, I'm just a lawyer, I don't make a decision, I just advise. If this board contemplates an extension and they say yes to extend the sewer, yes to extend the water, that those fees are gonna be paid at that time?
Yeah, I believe so, but.
But you're looking to negotiate your fees.
We can talk about that if we have to pay
As a
it, we will
condition of
pay
the
it.
subdivision.
But there are more than just the sewer and water fees, there's some other fees too. There's
So there's two requests here. One is
Erosion and harm.
to proceed with the water and sewer district extension and then to negotiate these fees down
Well, we
afterwards.
Well, we have to pay, there's other fees, we gotta pay 72,000 for park fees, we gotta pay for an account for Keystone for 20,000, we have to pay an account for erosion control, $10,000. So the sewer and development fees are roughly $790,000. And I will talk to my clients about ponying up the money, but I would ask the town to have some mercy.
Okay, I mean, again, I'm more focused on the district and the extensions, and then the fees is something that we can consider.
The fees, if we have to come up with the fees, we'll come up with the fees.
So-
I know we did come up with the $74,000 probably within the last 6 months or so.
So I would suggest that our town attorneys look this over and make a determination as to whether or not there's a potential liability if we do not extend the water and sewer districts. Because that's, then it's not really our discretion.
You're involved in a lawsuit, I tell you that, right?
Correctly, right, so if it's our discretion, then, we have to,
Well, I said,
we may lean no.
Richard has copies of these contracts, they're very clear. The town has agreed to extend the sewer and water districts.
Okay, but we want confirmation from our expert, our counsel. And if they make that determination that, they come to us and say, listen, this is a huge lawsuit, if we say no, we really don't have a chance, we've already paved the primrose path to extension, and we have no choice, then as we did at the beginning of 2024, when we did some of those extensions based on the potential liability, then we may end up going that route.
So let me just, here's my problem, once again. I've been trying to get this before the board for months, and it's getting either ignored or postponed. So if Richard, I know Richard is as busy as I am, and I would like to get this done as quickly as possible, because once again, I know there's sewer and water, and it's a race to get approved. Because you're absolutely correct. If all of the pending applications for subdivision approval are granted, the ones at the very end may not be sewer and water capacity. But I know from talking to the former supervisor that at one time there was enough sewer and water for at least 7 of the developments, and that it was reserved, not legally binding reserved, but it was contemplated that the first 7 developments, based upon the amount of the building applications, would have sewer and water. And that was one of the reasons for that gigantic tank that was installed, I think, within the next year. So I would ask Richard.
Not along Sheldrake, I thought we did it in Old Falls
I'm not sure what it was.
and Lane.
It was a
Those are
big,
the 2 tanks that we have.
a big tank that was recently completed.
That should have been Old Falls, I don't think it's Loch
I'm
Sheldrake.
not sure where it was. Richard, if you could.
Monticello, they put a big one.
So let me go back to the last application. Is it my assumption that this board has denied the application for a zoning change? Because that.
Well, we hadn't voted one way or the other,
Okay.
it's just,
Well, do you need time to consider it, or do you want to vote now, whether it's granted or not? Then I'll have to tell my clients what the alternatives are.
what are we voting on, to rezone the property?
Yeah, I think that's probably before the town board. If
You'd
you-
have to have a
If
resolution.
you, if you agree to it,
Seeker.
then I still have to have a public hearing, and the town board can reject it after a public hearing. That's what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, I can only speak to myself and how I would vote, I can't speak to the board. We can, similar to the first applicant, we can go through the escrow process and,
Well, I'd like
if it
to
doesn't
get-
bind the town.
Well, I'd like to get it moving whichever way Richard thinks would be the right way, and either you accept it, or you make terms, or you don't accept it, and I don't know where to go. So right now, there's no decision.
No decision,
There's
but
no
it
decision.
sounds like you're on a time crunch, like you
No,
gotta
I'm
get this
not,
done.
I'm not, I just wanna know what to do, that's all. Actually, for this application, the zoning application, there is no time sequence.
Okay, so I think it's definitely, I feel like we're kind of on the fence and we kind of need
Okay.
to learn more about what the proposal might be, especially if it brings additional, maybe,
Well,
housing units or housing stock into the
I'll
town.
talk to my client and see if he has any other ideas. Also check with, what Nathan suggested, whether we can build multiple units on the property. I think we have the right to do that if the zone is changed, but I have to go back to the bulk tables and take a look at it.
See if there's, the setbacks are there. and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
so I'll be able to, and maybe we can limit the amount of roofs, that might be an alternative. But anyway, thanks for your consideration, and, I'll be back.
Thank you, Ivan. All right, so do I have a motion to adjourn or
Second.
all in favor? Aye. All right, and with that, we are adjourned tonight. Thank you everyone for coming.
Mike, you have to hit that thing.